Professor Tao, now he mentioned the principles of non-confrontation, no conflict, mutual respect and win-win. These were the central ideas of China's concept of a new type of major power relations. Well, China brought it up in 2013. The United States was responding to it, but later on they kind of stepped back from it. But what exactly do these concepts mean? Why are they important for China?
Well, actually, since President Nixon's ice-breaking journey to China in 1972, China and the United States were making combined efforts to build such kind of a new type of great power relationship. These three principles, if we look back to the Shanghai Communique, actually there are some principles in Shanghai Communique very similar to these three principles. And China and the United States are two great countries with different social systems, and they have a different development paths. Soviet Union was competing for hegemony with the United States. China doesn't and didn't, and the Soviet Union actually collapsed. Yeah. But China become stronger and stronger, and China's economic prosperous now brings to benefit to the whole world. So China's relationship with the United States is different from the Soviet Union's relationship with the US, and is different from other countries' relationship with the United States. So this must be a new type of great power relationship. As you have said, President Xi put forward this term in Annenberg meeting with President Obama in June 2013. And the US actually generally accepted these three principles, but with one principle, US had some, Obama administration had some kind of a reservation, that is mutual respect.
Why were they hesitant towards that?
Well, it's very interesting. In November 2009, when President Obama visited China, the two leaders released a joint statement. And in this joint statement, mutual respect, each other's core interests and grave concerns were written into the statement. But later on, some American scholars criticized Obama administration for that. For instance, at one conference, one scholar said, yes, Taiwan is your core national interests. Taiwan is not our national interest, but not because it is your national core interests. We cannot sell weapons to Taiwan.
So what does it mean that Tillerson now voice the US's, the new administration's support to these principles? What does that mean?
That's a very interesting question. And Tillerson said that once and again in his meeting with Foreign Minister Wang Yi, in his meeting with President Xi, and also in the public case at the press conference, he repeated these three principles.
He must know the underlying significance.
Yes. Of course. I think he knows the background, he knows the meaning very well, and he knows how President Obama and the Obama administration approached to these principles. That means that the new administration, the Trump administration, wants kind of a different approach to China. That means, I recognize that. And
without using the same term, a new type of great power relationship, but they acknowledge the principles. But can we look at it as a kind of diplomatic victory for China?
I don't think we should argue whether it's China's diplomatic victory or U.S. diplomatic victory. That's not important. And we are not asked for intellectual property or it's our invention, it's our initiative. No, that's not important. And so-called the term of a new type of relationship is not important. What is important is the substance of that relationship. That is three principles.
Yes.
So it actually goes beyond my expectation Yeah. So
you didn't think that he would say that,
Yeah,
especially repeatedly.
yeah.
But another natural question that came to my mind when I saw this was, okay, they acknowledged these principles which China had been advocating for quite a few years. Did they have to get something in return for that? I mean, as a business person,
Well,
you never give
yeah.
without taking.
Yeah, both President Trump and Secretary Tillerson are businessmen, used to be businessmen, and of course they want to get something back. Yeah, you know, in China-U.S. relations, there are many issues. Some issues are not negotiable. Some issues are negotiable. For instance, one China principle is non-negotiable. It's beyond negotiation. But some issues, trade, investment, BIT, those issues are negotiable. Yeah. So we can negotiate about trade. We can negotiate about trade balance, about BIT. A lot of things we can negotiate. And actually, the Secretary of Treasury, Mnuchin, has already called his Chinese counterparts. Yeah, we are going to negotiate a lot of things. Yeah, so actually, you know, we have to distinguish two different kinds of issues.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Tao Wenzhao from Tsinghua University. And now I'm joined on the line by Harry H. Sa, research analyst from Nanyang Technological University. Many thanks, Mr. Sa. Now, first of all, what is your take on Tillerson's visit? Some media reports are saying that Tillerson's tone on China got a lot friendlier once he got to China, just like his boss when Trump spoke to Xi Jinping. What do you think?
Well, I think Secretary Tillerson is still testing the waters. He's still figuring out how to do his job. I don't believe he has a precise idea about what he wants to do. He has a general idea how he wants to approach kind of the bigger issues in the region. He wants to maintain friendships with Japan, with South Korea. He wants to get tough on North Korea, and he certainly wants to cooperate with China. But all of this is merely a continuation of previous policies, and we're still trying to get a better grasp on what specific policies and designs that the administration has for the region.
Mm-hmm. Now, we were just discussing the principles that Tillerson reiterated repeatedly during his visit to China, the principle of no conflict, non-confrontation, mutual respect, and win-win. What do you think was the reason that he voiced these principles that China had been advocating for so long here in Beijing?
Well, Tillerson and the Trump administration knows the relationship with the Chinese can get rocky very fast. So it makes sense to start off on a less testy footing. Why start off the relationship on such a rocky footing? The Trump has already done that with the phone call with Taiwan. It's time to mend ties a little bit. It sends a good message that Secretary Tillerson's first trip abroad is to Asia. There is a sense that he went a little bit too far. He is being criticized for using too much of what they call Chinese vocabulary for the United States foreign policy. I think, again, this shows Tillerson's lack of concrete policies. He's just a little bit underprepared when it comes to the Trump administration's own policy towards the region.
Now, before Trump came into power, commentators suggested that China-U.S. relations were doomed to hit a new low, or at least be very bumpy along the way. But the opposite seems to be true by now. Are we too optimistic too early?
Yes, I just think it's much too early to tell. This is a diplomatic trip. I don't think that Secretary Tillerson went into the region to really ruffle any feathers. They want to start off on a neutral ground at the very least before they start tackling some of the more difficult issues like North Korea, trade, South China Sea, and things of that nature.
While Tillerson was in Asia, Trump continued to bash China on Twitter, which was an amazing way of conducting diplomacy. Was Trump trying to put pressure on China to do more on the DPRK, or was he trying to win domestic thumbs up? Was he undermining his Secretary of State during his visit?
Well, I do think the Trump administration certainly wants to lean on China when it comes to North Korea. I don't think it's the wisest policy because China doesn't have the kind of sway that the Trump administration is expecting it to have, it is in China's interest to keep the regime in place, in power. So I do think that that is going to be one of the rockier aspects of the relationship on how to solve this North Korean issue. There are quite some overlap with the Chinese and the United States. They do want to see a denuclearized peninsula. They do want peace and stability in the region, but it is just far too early to tell. Until the Trump administration gives us any concrete policies on how to deal with it, they're still in the planning stages. I think it's much too early to call.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Professor Harry H. Sa.